Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. The day is the 8th, the month is December, and the year is 2025. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Moton Noah. Watched a lot of ball this weekend, folks. Watched a lot of, maybe we'll reverse engineer it today. If we do reverse engineer the ball that I watched this weekend, we will be starting with soccer, and I know that that's sort of a, look, I look at the numbers, I try not to, I feel bad. Sometimes I try not to do soccer because let me just go over. I don't care. So this weekend, it started with the World Cup draws. Then that was on Friday. And then Saturday, woke up with my son and Leicester City played Derby County at like 6:30 in the morning. Absolute thrashing, banged in 3 goals in the first half. Leicester sitting pretty comfortably mid-table right now. That's about as, Then after that, watched Man City play Sunderland. I was sweating that one a little bit. The Sunderland is sneaky. They've been giant killers this year, and if they haven't been killing the Giants, then they've been hanging with them and getting points off of them at the very least. So I actually was a little bit like I was seeded for that one. Wasn't horsing around, and then it became such that I could horse around because it was City absolutely again another thrashing. Ryan Cherky had probably the assist of the year to Phil Foden in that game. Phil Foden was inches away from smoking it, but yep, banged in the header. Then what was it after that? Right after that, I watched Michigan State play Duke in basketball. Frustrating game, but I think that there's a non-zero chance that this is Tom Izzo's best team that he's ever had, and I've had a lot of fun watching Michigan State basketball in the 5 or 6 games that I've gotten to watch them this year, so they've been great. And then immediately after that, I watched Lionel Messi win the MLS Cup. Watched Miami beat Vancouver in the MLS final. Honestly, didn't really give a shit about that game, but it was on, and it was Messi, so I was like, at least, I don't know, in the twilight years of a career, who's winning trophies? Is it Messi or is it Ronaldo? Messi's won 4 with Miami, so there you go. What was it after that? I was kind of flipping around. I was watching that Georgia-Alabama game a little bit until it became apparent that Alabama was going to keep playing the way that they've been playing for like the last month, and that there was no reason to actually watch it. So thank you to, both teams, but for Georgia for actually putting them away, and for Alabama for just affirming that I didn't need to watch that game, especially because we all knew what was going to happen with the college football playoff committee. Alabama did get in. I don't even think they ended up dropping a spot. So if these conference championship games matter or not, maybe we'll talk about the playoff a little bit later today. What was it after that? Was it immediately after that was the Ohio State Indiana game? Yeah, that was a heavyweight fight. That was a really, really fun game. And then you get into Sunday and you got this NFL slate. I watched that Jags Colts game. What's happened to the Colts on the outside, from an outsider's perspective, what's happened to the Colts in these last 4 or 5 weeks has been very, very funny. It's not funny to see Daniel Jones go down with the injury that he did. That really stinks. Conversely, that had nothing to do with this game, but Zach Ertz, the injury that he had in that Vikings game, for a guy who has already kind of gone through one of those injuries in the past, it really stinks. For him, one of the worst knee injuries that you'll maybe ever see in your life. I think it was it Marcus Lattimore? Was it Marshawn Lattimore? Marcus Lattimore? Which one of them is a defensive back for the Saints, and then one of them was a running back at South Carolina like 10 years ago. He had a similar one at South Carolina. I think they were playing Tennessee, where his knee just went the complete opposite way. Like the way you normally bend your knee, it was doing that, but the wrong way. Just absolute, just a brutality. What else was there? Watch that Bears-Packers game. I think the NFL is in a better place when the Bears and the Packers are playing meaningful games. And I'm pretty sure mathematically it was better for the Lions that the Packers ended up winning that game. So that was fun. Man, what else? I'm just letting you know, I watched a little bit of that Juve-Napoli game too that happened in the afternoon. Napoli went up 1-0, watched like 20 more minutes of it. Then I was like, yeah, I'm getting all I need out of this. Conceição is completely fucking bottled it this year. And I'm, and at least whenever I watch Juve, so I haven't really been a big fan of him this year, for a team that I otherwise really like in Serie A. Man, what else was there? Watched a lot of ball this week, man. I watched it, just this weekend specifically. So got balls coming out of my ears. Where do we want to start with, with everything I just said? Because that's everything I just talked about is in some way, shape, or form, I think, going to be the genesis of, what we talk about today. I do want to start with the World Cup draw. And I know that, again, some of you are going to like plus 10. Well, I think there's a non-zero chance that even if you don't care about soccer, the most soccer that, I don't know why I feel the need to qualify, like justifying, doing this segment. So I won't. Why don't I just do it? I went into this very, very excited. I've never watched a World Cup draw before. I usually just let it happen because it doesn't particularly matter. You don't need to watch it. But I'm feeling festive. I'm feeling festive as it pertains to the World Cup, and I was just excited to get into it. So without getting too much into what an absolute embarrassment that entire presentation was, to be honest with you, not just for the United States of America, but for the sport, I thought. Now, the FIFA has never exactly been a bastion of morality, so I could do a whole thing where I lib out and I get really mad about this fake peace prize that FIFA invented just to give Donald Trump. Because the truth is, I was libbing out super hard when that was happening in real time, even though we knew it was going to happen. I was really upset about the highlight package that they threw together, and I was really upset about the things that they were saying about him, and I was really upset about all these foreign dignitaries and otherwise, giving him a round of applause. But that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. It happened, and we all saw it, and we all know what it was. So why don't we just stick to the fact that I'm really bearing the lead on how god-awful and embarrassing that entire presentation was. So we're going to shelf that. It doesn't matter. Let's actually just focus on what we got out of the draw. And I think the thing that kind of bummed me out a little bit was my brain, like two things were true. I knew that with this massively expanded tournament that we're going to have with the World Cup this next summer, just that. I just knew that it was massively expanded, right? But for some reason, I was still excited to see what the group of death was going to be. And it's like, well, Nick, no, the problem is there's more teams now, so there's not going to be a group of death, right? Yeah, there's not. There's not. So if you didn't see this, you didn't hear about this, the United States drew Paraguay, Australia, and a team that, will be determined later in the spring. The odds are it's between Turkey, Kosovo, Romania, and I don't remember who the last team was, but the odds are that it's going to be Turkey. So for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's the United States, Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. So what's the good news and what's the bad news there? Because there's both. Well, the good news is those are all winnable games, but the bad news is we could very easily lose all three of those games too, right? So I was kind of looking for like a, hey, Trump, like we talk about FIFA not really being a bastion of morality. It's like, well, if there's ever a time for you to put your thumb on the scale, this is the sporting entity to do it with, right? And to wet the United States beak a little bit. Did that happen? Again, like nobody got screwed and nobody got like the best group. I guess I haven't done this mental exercise. So if we look at the two other host nations between Canada and Mexico got South Africa, South Korea, and another to be determined team, of which I don't have in front of me who it could potentially be. Canada got Qatar or Qatar and Switzerland, and then another to be announced playoff team. Yeah, those are both like decently like tough groups. I think Mexico actually really got the short end of the stick with South Africa and South Korea. If you really want to try to force a group of death, man, I don't know. Group F has the Netherlands, Japan, another to be announced team, and Tunisia. Japan's been good the last like 2 or 3 World Cups. The Dutch are always good. Group I, you have France, Senegal, another to be announced team, and Norway. That's a tough group. The funniest thing about that is that Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland, two of the best strikers, not just in the world, but to have ever played the game, will be playing a World Cup game in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Huh? Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland playing where the Patriots play their games. That's going to be sicko, nasty, disgusting hours, and I can't wait for it. What else is there? Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama. Is it that? Is it that for all of the groups that are not yet determined? This is one that is otherwise determined. I think maybe just temporarily we'll say England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama is probably the hardest group. The funniest thing also is that there's a non-zero chance that on America's 250th birthday, next July 4th, the England national team will be playing a World Cup game, presumably in the knockout stages, in Philadelphia. Huh? For those of you who maybe are unaware of America's history, that's where America was founded, bro. That's where we signed the Declaration of Independence, and then they got so excited after that they went outside and they were like Mazel Tov, and they cracked the Liberty Bell. And 250 years later, after we chased those damn redcoats out of Philadelphia and out of the east coast of what we now know to be the United States of America, England is back for more 250 years later for revenge. It's unknowable who they might be playing in that game. But that is still, it's notable. I think it's funny. And that's pretty much it. I think this World Cup for the United States is a big one. I think it's the absolute biggest for Christian Pulisic. I think for maybe the people who don't necessarily care a ton about soccer at all, I think one of the only guys that the name that you even might be familiar with on this national team for the U.S. Is Christian Pulisic. And that's not for no reason, man. Like, he's a really, really talented player. He's played in 3 of the best leagues in the entire world. He's currently playing in what is maybe my favorite league in the entire world, in Italy, in Serie A. And he's playing for one of the most historic clubs in the entire sport, in Milan, right? So, and contributing, like, massively for them. What was it, the last time that they played Inter Milan, which was, like, 2 weeks ago, within this last month? You know who scored the only goal? Christian Pulisic. So this guy's massive, man. He's played at some of the biggest clubs. He's played in some of the biggest leagues. He scored some of the biggest goals. He's a really, really special player, and it just hasn't happened for the United States. We missed the last cycle. We didn't even qualify. So I think there's a lot of pressure on him, Captain America, as it were. And we'll see. Pochettino, that's how you say it, right? He's the manager for the United States. He's been saying all the right things. I think we've seen in the last 2 international cycles when the United States has played friendlies. I think they're starting to juice up a little bit, and I think what helped in the last match that they played, I don't remember who it was against, but in the last match that they played, I think because a lot of the A-team guys were out, like even Pulisic wasn't playing because in the previous international break he fucked up his hamstring, and so Milan was like, you're not playing him again. I think you saw a lot of the B team players show that they have something to prove, and we kicked the shit out of Uruguay 5-1 or something. Yeah, it was Uruguay, that's what it was. So I don't know, man. I'm excited for the World Cup. Really, the bar is just make it out of the group stage. If you're playing into July in a knockout round, like imagine the United States is playing England. I don't know if the bracket can work out this way, but imagine the United States is playing England on the 4th of July in Philadelphia. That's going to be nasty, sicko, insane hours. So that's your World Cup draw, folks. Where do we want to go to next? Do you want to do a little bit of college football playoff? We've kind of not done college football at all this year, and that is really just because when Michigan State is as bad as they are, I can only care about so much. And even though I'm watching a lot of the games, I'm not invested in them particularly. And I'm not particularly invested in, playoff scenarios or anything like that because my team stinks and I got other shit going on. And when Michigan State swings back around, I'm still watching all the Michigan State games, but it's there are no stakes. I didn't watch they played, was it Maryland that they played in the last game of the year at Ford Field? I mean, I didn't watch that because at that point, which is so fucking annoying because didn't they actually end up winning that game too? They did. That was the only Big Ten game that we won this year. Yeah, man. The playoff committee grouped. They got together. Give me a second here. I should have already had this pulled up. I mentioned earlier that the biggest piece of controversy here was that Alabama not only got into the playoff, but the fact that they didn't drop at all. And sort of coasting on reputation, Alabama, sort of the darling of the Nepo baby of the college football playoff selection committee. Again, because I'm not invested, I kind of just don't care about oh no, Notre Dame didn't get in. Yeah, yep, Notre Dame didn't get in. And then they were like, not only did we not get in the playoff, but because of that, we're rejecting any bowl invitation that we get. Bowl season officially being dead and killed in college football, I think really, really stinks. So what is it? Well, the top 4 seeds, Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Georgia. Texas Tech's defense this year is shocking. I think Texas Tech could very easily make a lot of noise. We see James Madison and Tulane get in here. Texas A&M, Miami, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama, and SCO Ducks. Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks will be playing JMU at home in the first round in just 2 weeks, I think. Right. So I'm looking at the thing, and I guess I thought I had more takes than I actually do. Maybe I'll just do the Indiana Ohio State thing or more specifically the Kurt Signetti thing, because I'm not really about to say anything that people haven't already said, not just within the last few days since Indiana won their first outright Big Ten championship since 1945, but their second since 1967. They shared one, I believe, in 1967. So 1945, my grandpa was born, and then right, or was it my grandma? Yeah, my grandma was. How would this work? My grandma was born in 1945, I believe. And then my dad was born in 1967. So Indiana winning championships is directly related. And then I had a niece that was born this year too. So basically, if members of my family are born but it's not a lock. But if members of my family are born, there's a non-zero chance that Indiana's going to win a title, and they did this year. So the take that I want to deliver about Curt Cignetti, the head coach of Indiana football, is like, it's crazy to watch a guy like literally do the video game shit in real life. You know, it's crazy to watch a guy. You play college football 25 or college football 26, and you're like, what's the most, like, Kennesaw State? Let me do a dynasty with Kennesaw State. And within 3 years, you know, you do some unrealistic shit and you get them into the playoff, and by year 5 you win a natty or something like that, right? That's stuff that you do in video games. But what Curt Cignetti has done, not just at Indiana, not just at JMU, I don't remember where he was before that. This guy is a proven winner. Google his ass. He's a huge douchebag. But that just kind of comes with the territory. Super funny guy. Didn't he join Twitter just so that people could send him tips, like financial, like money, like with dollar bills, like those kind of tips? Not like, hey, run a slant route on the when the safety drop. Not those kind of tips. Like, here's a $5. You know, thanks for turning Indiana football, which was once a perennial, you know, 3-9 candidate, into just an absolute wagon, an absolute fire hose. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun to see sort of a new dog emerge in college football. You know, one that, again, for years and years and years was just a W on your schedule. And now, I mean, you know, we'll see when he loses Mendoza and we lose all these guys, you know, we'll see what happens. They got really, really good receivers this year too. And so there's not a ton of reason to doubt him moving forward. There's not a ton of reason to doubt his ability to recruit guys or to get them in the portal. So it's cool. I think it's a good day, you know, any day that Ohio State loses, specifically in the Big Ten championship game. It's a good day. You know, Indiana, we have something in common now. Indiana fans, our Hoosier fans out there, you have something in common with me. How does it feel to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game? It feels pretty damn good. I tell you that much. It feels really, really good. When we did it, unfortunately, Indiana fans don't have this. We as Michigan State fans do have this. You remember when we beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, and it was only like the second time that Urban Meyer had ever lost at Ohio State, and the other time was, I don't remember what the timeline was. So we beat Urban Meyer twice, and one of them was in the horseshoe, and then the other one was in the Big Ten championship game. So I don't remember what the timeline was on which one came first. But after we beat Urban Meyer in the Big Ten championship game, there's that really, really funny picture of him sad eating Papa John's on a golf cart. You guys remember that? Indiana, unfortunately, does not have that with Ryan Day. But what they do have is the luck on their side of once a year, Ryan Day will be the worst coach in college football. And it just so happens that Indiana, it hadn't happened yet this year. They were due. Seemed like it might happen in that Michigan game. Julian Sand threw a pick on like his second throw of the game. Happened again in this Indiana game. Super early on, throws an interception. You're like, oh my God, here we go. History repeating itself. Ohio State going to turn this thing around, and they're going to win this game. Smoked like a chip shot 20-yard field goal in the closing minutes of the game, and that was it. That was wraps, man. So good day. The witch is dead. Unfortunately, if last year was an indication of anything, Indiana may have just awoken a sleeping giant. A sleeping giant that's like fucking 13-1, by the way. Just lost their first game. There's a non-zero chance that now this propels Ohio State to, you know, winning a national championship. Actually, since we got the bracket up here, why don't we look at what that path would be? So Ohio State will play the winner of Texas A&M and Miami. I mean, they will dumpster Miami. Texas A&M would be a good game, though. If they get through that, it's the winner of whoever comes out of Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tulane. So I would imagine that's going to be Georgia. Yeah, probably. I tell you what, the most fun scenario is if somehow, I mean, it won't be fun if JMU beats Oregon for my sake, just because I like Dan Lanning. You know, I like Dante Moore. But, you know, I'm not going to be the one who rejects the idea of a 12-seeded a group of 5, you know, James Madison going into Autzen Stadium and beat Oregon. That would be sick. You know, if they're able to do that and then get through Texas Tech, which is the true buzzsaw that there's no chance, right? But if they did and Indiana handles business against the winner of Alabama and Oklahoma, you would be looking at an Indiana JMU semifinal, right? The Curt Cignetti Bowl. That would be, I mean, I think we've used the phrase in some form, sicko, nasty, twisted hours like 4 times already in this episode. But that is, I think, really the true embodiment of it right there, you know? So the college football playoff, What am I hitting the buzzer sound on? That it started. That was the starting gun. It's a starting gun. You know, think about buttons. This sort of just came into my head. The Staples button, that was easy. kind of went away. I think that was just what's the commentary here? I don't know. I just sort of observationally that was easy button doesn't exist anymore. Did you guys ever get to have one of those as a kid? I don't remember where we got our that was easy button. You're probably screaming at the radio right now, Nick. It was probably from Staples. No, I don't think it was. We never went to Staples. Staples was one of those places. They still exist. There are still Staples that exist. There are a couple here in Chicago. But what's weird about Staples is there are a couple different like places that do this, right? So Home Goods is another one. You will sometimes get Amazon packages like delivered to these places. Like that's where they get picked up. Or like, so that's Home Goods for me. Is like sometimes people just like get Amazon packages delivered to Home Goods. It's very, very strange. Or what you can do is when you return an Amazon package, you can go to like a Staples or somewhere like that. You guys know what I'm talking about? Have you had to do this before? So the only times that I've been into Staples, I swear to God, in my life are when I have to return something on Amazon. That's the only other time that I've ever been in there. Because otherwise, like you go in there, dog, they're selling landlines in there. Huh? Who is this for? In the last, like, I don't know, month, I think in this house we've watched like 80 to 100 hours of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I didn't realize how late into the 2010s that family, A, still used landlines, and B, used Blackberries. Shocking. And I assumed, my only assumption was that, they had some sponsorship or something like that. They had some brand deal where, BlackBerry just held on as long as they possibly could. I'm not naive to I remember when Blackberries were like the shit and, when that was like the phone of choice. I remember I had a friend who, as soon as Blackberries got phased out, their mom had gotten an iPhone and they gave them their shitty BlackBerry that nobody wanted anymore. Because now we got these fancy dancy rinky dinky. Well, I mean, the BlackBerry era did last beyond when the iPhone got launched. Because when did the first iPhone come out? Like 2007. So yeah, BlackBerries, like, I mean, I don't know, BlackBerries were a thing into the Heatles. And then by the time he went back to Cleveland, by the time LeBron was back in Cleveland, iPhones were the complete. If you didn't have an iPhone, you were a loser. I didn't even have an iPhone at the time, by the way. I didn't get my first iPhone. My first iPhone was, I didn't get a phone until I was in 9th grade. And then, which was it was a brick, dude. It was not, it was a Metro PCS Android. Look, my parents did what they could. They absolutely did what they could. I was just happy to have a phone. I didn't care. It's just funny in retrospect how terrible that phone was. And then after that, I had another Android. And again, man, I didn't get my first iPhone until like 2016 or something like that. It was hard to go through high school when like iPhones were really popping off and like you didn't have one. That sucked. Everybody that I would text, like I spent so many years, I would just text off of my iPod Touch and I would just use iMessage on there and I wouldn't even use my actual phone because I just hated it. I just absolutely hated it. Couldn't use emojis. Now on all these Androids, you have emojis, but back in the day, 10 years ago, 2015, you didn't have them on like just any given Android, right? So where were we going with this? How do we get this thing back on the road? Well, why don't we do some emails? Guys? Copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. We got 2 emails over the weekend from Jamal, and believe it or not, they were both funny. So let's just read this first one really quick. A new segment, 2 heaters from Jamal. Jamal, welcome back to the show, brother. Subject line: has anyone thought to call Kash Patel a DEI hire? Trump and his MAGA gooners called off the minorities in Biden's term DEI. What if we call Kash Patel a DEI hire, or is that not funny? I don't know. I don't know if I'm the first to think of this. It is funny, Jamal. It is funny. Sort of a fighting fire with fire scenario here. Kash Patel is a DEI hire. Yeah, I mean, you kind of open Pandora's box a little bit with that. Because then it's like, oh, okay, so just because I don't agree with him and just because I think he is a fucking insane person who does illegal shit like every single day and like wants the Secret Service to protect his performer girlfriend and will like openly admit to somebody was like, when he landed in Provo, he wouldn't do a press conference to do the whole Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk is dead thing, Tyler Robinson, White Boy of the Year. He's like, there's a report that comes out that, Kash Patel wouldn't do the press conference until somebody gave him like a youth medium FBI vest. And he like quote tweeted it and he was like, actually, it was a youth large. Whoops. Whoops. You know, sometimes people do that thing where they're like, not even Batman himself could have gotten that information out of me. How old is Kash Patel? He's got to be is he in his 50s yet? He's in his 40s at least, I'm sure. Has to be, right? With those eyes, with those weathered, seasoned eyes that he has. He's seen some shit. I don't know what he's seen, but he's seen some shit. You know, it just kind of opens Pandora's box. If you're like, well, we can be racist to this guy just because of everything that I just said. You know, does that mean that we can also be racist to Candace Owens? No, I don't think so. I think this is just too slippery of a slope. And I don't think, honestly, you know what, Jamal? I don't think I'm the one to litigate this. But I do think it's funny, the principle of calling him a DEI hire. I do think that's funny, especially because Trump doesn't really see, he likes a very specific type of person, you know. It's interesting that he didn't make, I don't know, who would he have made? I'm trying to think. Tommy Lauren. Is it interesting that he didn't make Tommy Lauren the director of the FBI? You got Pam Bondi, the attorney general. What does she look like? You have Carolyn Leavitt, the press secretary. What does she look like? You know, you have all these, I don't know. I just think, you know what I mean? Just seems like Tommy Lauren. Who's another one? Caitlin Bennett. You bring Caitlin Bennett back around, get the poop out of her pants. Maybe her. It's a good email, Jamal. It's funny. I don't know if it's nice, but nothing that Kash Patel has done has been particularly nice either. Namely, tearing down one of my childhood heroes, Chauncey Billups. Maybe leave him alone. Now, the other email that Jamal sent in, I think it's brilliant. I think this is a brilliant idea, and I want to see maybe if we can unpack this, see how many layers deep we can go on this. So Jamal's subject line here is how to beat the Thunder. So let's do some hoops here, folks. Jamal says, every team needs to boycott the Oklahoma City Thunder and refuse to trade with them. If they call, just hang up. When the second apron is about to hit and they try to trade Chet or J-Dub for 3 or 4 firsts, every team has to say no. What teams wouldn't say no? What teams would be greedy? Pistons, Clippers, and Suns. They need to, wait, you say at the end here, Pistons, Clippers, and Suns, so they need to be bankrupted and shit. No fucking idea what you're talking about. This is the same. This is how it goes with Jamal's emails. He'll always say one thing in there that makes no goddamn sense. This is funny. This is a funny idea that if the entire NBA just colluded against the Oklahoma City Thunder and they said, you know what, you've made your bed, you've slept in it, you have essentially the assets that you have at your disposal are that of the entire league combined. What if the other 29 teams just rejected them and pretended that they didn't exist? What if the NBA just collectively shunned the Oklahoma City Thunder? That would be pretty funny. Now, the question here that you asked, I think, is interesting. What teams would cave, right? If 29 owners and 29 GMs and 29 coaches, they all had a secret meeting and Dagnall and Sam Presti were not invited to that meeting, you know, and they all say, hey, blood agreement, blood handshake agreement, we're all blood brothers in this. We're not doing business with them. Who's caving? Pretty comfortably, Danny Ainge, I think, is the first one that's going to come to everybody's mind, the weasel that he is. He's going to be the one that does sort of what you're talking about here, right? Where now I don't think, you know, you talk about the Clippers, the Thunder getting into the second apron. I don't know. A few years from now, the cap is just going to keep going up. And yeah, like Jalen Williams and Shea and Chet Holmgren are on behemoth contracts right now. And I kind of got caught up in this over the summer when Chet signed that contract. It's like, yeah, the numbers are crazy right now, but if you just wait a few years when other dudes start signing contracts and that money just kind of levels itself out, right? So like what you think is an insane 5-year contract right now, by the time you get into year 5 of that contract, A, it may be an underpay at that point, or at the very least, B, it will, again, just be sort of level with what the market value of whatever that position or whatever that particular caliber of player is. So I don't know what their situation is right now. Are they into the second apron? I don't know off the top of my head, Jamal, where they're at. But I do think that Sam Presti would be one of the first little snakes to jump in there. Pat Riley, however many years he has left, no, Pat Riley doesn't do like snaky business like that, does he? I can't really think of any. Like, he does the Godfather shit. You know, he'll put a horse head in your bed or something like that. When you're kind of on the fence, am I going to come to Miami? Am I going to go to, you know, Charlotte? You know, I don't know. Not that you would really pick between those two teams, but you know what I mean? If you're a free agent and you're kind of like, I'm not too sure, Pat Riley's going to lock you in a room. He's going to lay all like 15 of his rings out on the table. And he's not going to let you leave until you put pen to paper, right? That's what Pat Riley does. I don't know that, like, Pat Riley, you know what? Actually, this makes complete sense. If I use the Godfather analogy with Pat Riley, well, if we're doing Blood Brothers with the other 29 GMs in the league, you know, you never go against the family. That's what they say. You never go against the family. Well, then Pat Riley's not going to go against the family. If we all say we're doing this thing, then he's not going to do it. Who else do I think? Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka would betray this pact, this vow of silence towards the Oklahoma City Thunder. Rob Pelinka would do it. There wasn't anything particular. This isn't what I was about to say is not true. I was going to say it wasn't particularly anything, anything particularly weaselly about the business that he did with Nico Harrison. Not true at all. Not true at all, because Nico Harrison was like, hey, maybe I can get like Austin Reeves, or like, I don't know, can I get anything other than Anthony Davis and like a pick that isn't real? And Rob Pelinka was like, well, we're not too sure that Luka's going to want to extend. So because there's so much like, long-term uncertainty, like, I just don't know if we can really afford to, sacrifice that much for Luka fucking Doncic. And Nico Harrison was like, yeah, that makes sense. So nasty snake business from Rob Pelinka there. They're both idiots, but no, Rob Pelinka's not an idiot because this fell into his lap. And he did the right leverage thing by negotiating with a fucking idiot, and he got his way. It went as well as it could possibly go for him. Doesn't mean he's not a snake. Who else would fold on this? Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars sort of collectively, I think. It's not that they would... I don't think they would do it on purpose. Here's what would happen. I figured it out. Danny Ainge, we'll go back to the beginning. Danny Ainge, because he's the poster child for this whole thing. You can't trust that guy for a damn second. Danny Ainge would have the framework of a deal, whatever it is, with Oklahoma City. But then one of their little pencil pushers would notice a rounding error and say, oh, we actually need to get one more team involved and we need to move one more piece, right? Danny Ainge would say, Sam, don't even worry about it. I got the perfect fucking guys. I got the two Stooges down in New Orleans, right? I got Abbott and Costello down in New Orleans. Let me give them a call. Let me loop them in, and they're going to be none the wiser, and they're not going to know. Matter of fact, we might squeeze 5 first-round picks out of them just fucking because. Just because. Just send Troy Weaver a power forward. Give him the other Jalen Williams. Give him Blasian Williams. He's not Blasian. Or, I'm sorry. Yes, he is Blasian. Yeah, I think he is. Give Duke Dennis, that motherfucker, just send him, reroute him to New Orleans. They'll give you 3 first-round picks for him. Boom. Boom. So indirectly, I think those two, Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars, they would be involved in this. So how many are we up to right now? We said Pelinka. We said Ainge. We said we backtracked on Pat Riley, so that doesn't count. And then we'll say Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars count as one guy. So, okay, that's 3 front offices that I think would betray this. Can I get this up to 2 more? AK in Chicago, nobody wants to do business with them. So I don't think nobody I think the Bulls phone is probably picking up cobwebs at this point. So I don't even think you got to worry about him. I'm not worried about Trajan Langdon. Man, I'm trying to think of some weasels. There's got to be a layup that I'm not thinking of. I think maybe if you had to do an owner, Tillman Fertitta, maybe. I think Raphael Stone is too solid. I don't think he would let Tillman Fertitta get tricked into, Tillman Fertitta reads like a blog on like Rocket Powered or some fake, whatever. Some like fake Rockets blog where they propose a trade. I'm getting a little bit too specific here, so I don't know how particularly interesting this is going to be. Maybe we'll call it there. I don't think there are any other like real tricksters, hoodwinkers in the NBA. I'm trying to think of, just somebody in recent history who's done bad business that we A, haven't already named, and B, isn't Nico Harrison, because, he doesn't count at this point. That's probably it. Yeah, okay, all right. If that's it, then that's it. Good mental exercise. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email available in the description. Wherever it is that you listen to this program, we got a million emails over the weekend, and the problem with them is that they were all subject line Spotify Wrapped, which is good. Please continue to send in your Spotify Wrapped, your most listened to artists, songs, but specifically, podcasts, just all of them. Send me everything that you want to send me. And then either in the next episode or 2 episodes from now, I will let you guys know a little coping hour wrap. So keep doing that. Well, the problem is that so many of you guys, that was your subject line, but then there was also substance in your email. So there was no way for me to like sort, oh yeah, I want to read this one, I want to read this one, because they're all subject line Spotify Wrapped. You know what I mean? Except for this one at the top of the inbox. This one comes into us from Richard. Richard, welcome to the show. Subject line, Spotify Wrapped, and the best announcer calls ever. Now, obviously, we're only going to be doing one of these. You say in this email, the other thing I want to mention after doing your Spotify Wrapped was something you brought up in last Friday's episode. Great announcer calls. I'm happy you agree that announcer calls are so important to the moments. I've been saying for years that announcers make or break the moment no matter how cool it is. I think Kevin Harlan's LeBron James with no regard for human life is an all-timer, and that got me thinking about some other ones in sports. Here are some that I think could be in contention for the best ever. Now, I'm not going to do an impression for this one because I don't actually know what the cadence of it was, but I do remember this moment. Felix Hernandez's perfect game in 2010. He got it! 34 years, 119 games. It's finally happened. A perfect game by a Seattle Mariner. It was done by the king. Yeah, that was awesome. We said a couple of months ago, I think that might be the most important perfect game in my lifetime because it immortalized a guy that I think it otherwise would have been easy for people to forget about how dominant, again, the king, that was literally his nickname, was. So I think that was a very nice little cherry on top of what had already been an otherwise stunning career from Felix Hernandez. Now, the second one you include here is crazy because it was like 2 hours before you sent this in that I was actually doing this in my head because I was watching the Bills game and I was thinking about this player, right? So you say Joe Buck on the Minneapolis Miracle, Diggs, sideline, touchdown, unbelievable, Vikings win it. There was a little pause there between unbelievable and Vikings win it. I believe is one of the single greatest calls in American sports ever. Joe Buck, I think, has gotten a lot of shit for pretty much his entire career. But when that guy's on, he's on. Even when the Cubs won the World Series, literally all he said was, the Cubs. And then Chris Bryant throws it to Anthony Rizzo at first base. Win the World Series. But it was just the moment, man. He nailed it. And then the last one that you included here was Jim Nantz on the Villanova championship in 2016. This is another one. Brother, you nailed this one. Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. Yes! Everybody in the booth. Was there 3 or 4 guys in the booth? I think it was just the 3. 3 dudes in the booth. Oh my God, all of them were screaming their heads off. Villanova! Phenomenal! The national champions! The dude was like getting emotional when the fucking fireworks are going off as the minute that thing rips the net. The streamers, the confetti, everything. Chris Jenkins hits the most batshit insane shot that you've ever seen in your life. But my take on that Villanova North Carolina national championship game is that the shot that Marcus Page hit before that, literally on the opposite end of the floor, and then Villanova called a timeout, was literally the craziest shot I've ever seen in my life. The only reason that Chris Jenkins was crazier was because it won the championship. That's literally it. But the Marcus Page shot was infinitely cooler. Well, it's not cooler because, again, it didn't win the championship. Chris Jenkins literally he took the little handoff from Ryan Arcidiacono, and a New York Knicks legend, by the way. I think he played for the Bulls, too. Maybe he only played for one of those teams. Shout out to Ryan Arcidiacono. And the sequence couldn't have worked better. You know, there was a similar, Christian Watford hit a game winner against Kentucky. What was this, like 2011 or something like that? And it was a sort of a similar, he just sort of took the handoff. I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm supposed to be talking about announcers. Best calls, better calls that I can think of. It's hard to think of better calls than the ones that you just named here, because the Joe Buck one I do think is particularly amazing. I think we like to do these segments like kind of twice a year where we just sort of reminisce about different announcer calls. You know what was another really good one to make it about soccer? When Jamie Vardy, what was the record? Was it that he scored in 11 straight games, which would have been like 10 years ago right now when they were during their league winning season? It was like, oh fuck, what was the call? It was like 11 for, it's 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy. I don't remember what it was. Oh, but it was something like that. And it gives me, I got chills just now, even though just thinking about what it actually is, even though I can't remember what it is. It's 11. It's heaven for James. What is it? I want to look this up. Because it's such a. He scored. I don't remember what it was. It was a really good one. My favorite one of all time is. It's going to be hard to ever beat. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap. And the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson. And he scores on the last play of the game. Unbelievable. I mean, two of the best voice cracks that you'll ever hear in your life. Sean McDonough he's been calling some of the biggest games for like 30 damn years at this point in like all of the four major sports too. So he's really special. That Diggs sideline touchdown one is always going to be one of my favorites. Dan Dickerson had a call on the radio, the 2006 ALCS Tigers Athletics. Houston Street was on the mound. Craig Monroe, Placido Polanco on base. Magglio Ordonez up. I think it was a 2-0 count. Might have been 2-1. Magglio Ordonez swinging a line drive, deep left field. It's way back. The Tigers are going to the World Series. 3-run walk-off home run. Again, I'm getting chills. I might start to damn cry because it was just one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my entire life. I'm trying to think of like one that happened for the Lions, like one call that happened for the Lions. There might be one, but Mike Tirico, you know what? And this is a weird way to put it. Mike Tirico's silence when the Lions beat Stafford and the Rams in the playoffs a couple years ago meant a lot to me. That's a guy who lives in Ann Arbor. He's from Michigan. He understands. Like he really understood that moment. He understood the stakes and he understood the feeling in that building. And he let the building do the talking. You know what I mean? When it was clear that the Lions were going to win that game, I think it was a first down that Amon-Ra had picked up that essentially iced the game. And Mike Tirico just let you know what I mean? He didn't say anything because he knew how much it meant. And I think Chris Collinsworth, it was weird. He kind of tried to like pick up the slack and he was just kind of saying stuff. And it was clear that Mike Tirico was just letting the moment speak for itself, And so I really admired that. What's a good, there was one when the Pistons were in the playoffs against Milwaukee. I think it was game 3. And Reggie Jackson right before the half had just a nasty sicko putback dunk. And I don't remember if it was Albert or Harvin that was on the call because their voices are I always get them confused. But it was just like a parachuting in, Reggie Jackson parachuting in was so good. And the moment just really spoke for itself. It was really, really good. This doesn't really count, but just as like an announcer-ism, Blaha's count that baby in a foul is always going to be, that'll always be one of my favorites. His inability to correctly identify a dunk is funny. Not that he doesn't know when somebody dunks, but that everything is a windmill dunk is very, very funny. There's a million, man. I mean, you could use, if you just did Jim Nantz, you could fill up a top 10 list and it wouldn't even be that crazy. Jim Nantz, Tiger Woods wins the World Series. Tiger Woods won the World Series. Could you fucking imagine? Tiger Woods won the Masters in his last one, and was it 18 or 19 that he won that? And it was very simple, and it was clearly rehearsed and was in his back pocket all day. But all Tiger had to do was make the putt, and he wins the Masters. And I think he had a couple shots up anyway, so it didn't technically matter. But the return to glory. That was basically it. That was basically the genesis of the call. And Jim is just such a professional. He's so good in these moments. Very famously, the last time the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl, Tony Romo fucked up his call and just went into the mechanics of breaking down the play instead of just letting Jim Nantz do his thing. And again, letting the moment breathe and speak for itself. What's one more if I want to throw in there? I don't want to throw any more in there. Can I be honest with you guys? I'm having a tough day today, and I'm having a hard day, and I'm really in my head, and I know that I'm like whiplashing the shit out of you guys right now, because I feel like we were rolling, and now I'm just kind of, but I don't know why I've been feeling the way that I am. And this is one of those moments where I have to preface with like, Grandma, everything's fine. And sometimes I just need to talk. And sometimes I just need to talk. And it's okay that you're hearing what I'm saying, but I need you to pretend that I don't know that you're listening, okay? It doesn't, like, I need you to just let me get it out. That was really rude. I'm sorry, Grandma. You know what I mean, and you know how much I love you guys. But I'm saying this just to say I don't need, like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. But, I don't know. I've learned that as somebody who, like, doesn't have an income, and, like, it's just I'm very, very comfortable in my role as a homemaker and as somebody, like, I really don't have a problem with, like, I really like what I do, and I like that I'm home all day with our son, and I work really, really hard to keep the house clean and to, you know, have dinner ready or about to be ready when Maddie gets home on a lot of days. Like, I work really hard at home, and I really enjoy that because I have the most purpose that I've ever had in my life. And I really feel like I'm doing something meaningful with my life. And that matters to me a lot. For somebody who, for a majority of my life, you know, just kind of aimlessly wandered without purpose and, you know, would not like abuse substances, you know, it's just like I would, you know, like drink my beers or smoke a little bit of weed just because it would, you know, kill 2 hours, you know, at the end of a day. And then it would expedite the process of, you know, me being able to go to bed. Because most days, you know, I would wake up and I was like, man, I can't wait for this day to be over. Like, let's just get to tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you're not doing anything and you have no prospects and you're not working and you're just kind of, you're not doing anything. Where I'm going with all of this is, like, I am realizing that the one thing that fucking sucks is, I don't know how to say this, man. Like, I'm not gonna, it doesn't matter. But I just don't want, like, because I've been so hard on myself lately, like, I went last week, I went Sunday through Thursday and I didn't eat once. And that was an accident. I didn't even realize that was happening. It was a complete accident. I just never got hungry. I was just so, like, I was so detached from my own world and just kind of, like, going through the mechanics of what I'm supposed to do every single day. And, like, you know, just, like, playing with my son because, like, that's what I'm supposed to do and that's what I want to do. And, like, I want to spend time with him. And, well, even if I didn't want to, which would be fucking insane. I mean, I don't like where I'm going with this. Of course I want to spend time with my son. I'm just saying I'm here with him all day. So it's like, obviously I'm going to, but no, like, it's the best part of my day, you know, but you get so focused on, you know, keeping him alive and keeping him happy. And then when Maddie comes home, I get so fixated on, like, making her something quick for dinner because I had been having a lot of long days where I wasn't taking, you know, like, you take some meat out to defrost or something like that, or you throw something in the crock pot. Like, I just hadn't been doing that because I'd been so busy throughout the days. And so I would just make her something quick and then, you know, we would do whatever. And I just wasn't eating, but I was never getting hungry. So I just wasn't thinking about it. And I guess I'm doing all this just to say, like, and I'm sort of really trying to hold myself accountable when I say this. Like, it's just really important to be kind to yourself. And I know how easy it is, like, when you start to get in your head and you're upset about something or you're depressed about something, you're having anxiety about something, how easy it is to punish yourself for one reason or another, whether it's just because of the way that you're feeling or because of something that you did to lead to you feeling the way that you're feeling. It's incredibly important in those moments to just, like, take a step back and remember that you're a person, like, you're a dude, and you need to, whatever it is, man, like, whatever your definition of being kind to yourself is, whether it's, like, you know, leaving for work a little bit extra early to, like, get yourself a coffee. Like, you know, you don't want to get in the habit of doing that every day, you know, especially if I'm not pocket watching you guys. Do whatever the fuck you want, whatever makes you happy. But you know what I mean? Like, you just want to make sure that you're getting into healthy habits. And I think, like, you know, I read a lot of emails from you guys that I don't read on the show because sometimes I think that you guys like to use the inbox as a way to get shit off your chest and to just, like, vent about stuff. And it's kind of not, like, meant for the show. And I've always really admired that. I've always really appreciated that. And I've always been very grateful that the people who listen to the show, those of you who send those types of emails in, like, feel like it's a safe space where you can send that shit in. without the consequence of me like airing all your shit out on the show. Cause like, I'm never going to do that. Unless like, it's like a super specific case and like, you're like, yeah, it's fine. You can do it, whatever. Sometimes you guys say it's fine, but then it's like way too dark. And I'm like, I'm just glad you got this off your chest, bro. Jesus Christ. I don't remember where I was going with that. But, oh yeah, right. Like, so I know some of you guys, you form really unhealthy habits when you get into these ruts. And, it's hard to see that happen to people. And it's hard to see that happen to people even in your life that you love. Like, I've had people in my life who I care a lot about, and, they, one wrong turn, like one bad week turns into, years of substance abuse or a lifetime of it. And it's really hard to watch that happen to a person. And so I don't even know where I'm going with this, dude. I'm just like so bugged out by like, I don't even know what. And I feel so just like, and it doesn't help is I haven't left the damn house in 2 weeks because of the weather. Like every week we have, when the weather's like this, you got 2 opportunities to leave the house. When my girlfriend's off of work, cause she takes the car, to go to work, and which I'm getting fucking mad. I'm about to throw these headphones off. Like for real, I'm about to throw my fist through this desk because I'm just mad. And I'm so tired of being like the most emotional guy in the world, because for the amount of people that I know, like either in my immediate family or otherwise, like motherfuckers aren't feelers, and I get stuck with all the feelings, and it sucks. It sucks so bad to like constantly overthink everything and to constantly be in my head about every little interaction that I ever have. And then like one little thing just capitulates and or boils and then it throws me for a month and there's no way to get out of it. And then like your significant other is like, dog, I want to help you. Like I'm trying to help you, but I don't know what to do because you won't let me do anything to help you. And I'm like, because I don't fucking know. Like I don't know what I want and I don't know what I need. And I'm just so tired that like when I lay in bed, I wear my Oura ring. When I go to sleep, it tracks my sleep. And it also tracks something called sleep latency. All that means is like it does a pretty decent job of accounting for how long it takes you to fall asleep. I'm so tired of that shit being in between like 45 minutes and an hour because I just have to sit there and think and think and think. And then my ring will be like, hey, stop drinking caffeine before you go to sleep and stop staring at screens before you go to sleep. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not, for real. I'm not doing either of those things. Like, yeah, like, like watching the TV or something and then being like, all right, let's turn this off and go to bed. Like, that doesn't count. I mean, maybe it does count, but like, I'm not like on my phone. Just like my screen time every week is like 2 fucking hours. Like I don't like be on my phone. You know what I mean? And, just lay there. I just lay there and then I look at my sleep and every single night it's like 4 hours. And we've talked about this on the show before too, like how vital that deep sleep is specifically because your brain literally goes through the car wash. Like literally all the toxins get washed out of your fucking brain when you're experiencing deep sleep. That's why it's so important, and when you have a lot of sleep debt, which is another term that my Oura Ring recently taught me, sleep debt, which is just like, hey, if you slept 5 hours, your sleep debt is like 3 hours because you should try to get 8 hours. You know what I mean? I'm like 100 hours behind, bro. I need a bailout from the motherfucking government, like Wall Street style, 2008 style. I need a bailout. I'm upset all the time. I'm pissed off about things all the time for no reason. I'm too emotional of a guy. And it's not even that I don't know. Well, maybe it is that I don't know how to regulate my emotions. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's so goddamn offensive to me when I talk about this because I've done it I try not to do it because I just try not to be bitchy. But like Oh, sounds like you need to talk to somebody and get medicated. How about shut the fuck up? How about that? How about that? How about that? Because, I don't know, man. Chemical imbalances, they just kind of happen. With what health insurance do you want me to go see someone? With what health insurance? Haven't had health insurance since I was 18, bro. I can't go to the doctor. I can't do this shit. You know? Even if I like, use BetterHelp. Those fucking Nazis? No. All right. 200 episodes. This was 200 episodes. 200 episodes. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Look, I'm shaking the thing. Look, I'm shaking the monitor up into the thing. And can you guys see this? Can you see this? I'll see you in the next one.